Moving on to the Dallas Mavericks. The Dallas Mavericks are 9-4. All the teams I talked about have lost. Let me start there. The Miami Heat started the game on 22-1 run against the Chicago Bulls and then lost 102-97. The Dallas Mavericks were in the shootout against the Milwaukee Bucks 132-125, I believe. Kyrie and Luka almost combining for 80 points. Going up against Giannis and Damian Lillard, obviously a duo. Check the highlights of that, of course. But I just want to talk about what they have been able to do so far this season and have been able to just be consistently good. And Luka Doncic has been able to find another weapon. The additions of Dereck Lively, who they drafted, Grant Williams have been obviously pluses. Let's start with Luka Doncic, who has just been magnificent, of course. Luka Magic, 31 points per game, 8.2 assists per game, 7.8 rebounds per game. And you're seeing a little dip because he's usually around that triple-double mark. He's a little dip. He's close again, but just a little bit underneath there. And I think that's just him building chemistry with this team and allowing other guys to do what they do in terms of trusting them. Guys like that with Kyrie Irving, who's averaging 24 points per game, 6.6 assists. And that's one of the things where they didn't have last season, obviously with the loss of Jalen Brunson, and they brought in Kyrie Irving mid-season. So that was a clusterfuck last season, as we saw. But this season, they have been able to fine-tune their offense, especially with Kyrie Irving, especially when Luka gets doubled. He can find Kyrie Irving, and Kyrie Irving has been able to knock down shots this season consistently, being also able to create for others and himself and to be able to get to the basket. These guys get to the line quite a bit as well. And I think that's the difference between the Celtics offense and the Mavericks offense is that where even though I think the Mavericks are second in shooting in the league in terms of attempts, they're also able to get to the line. I think they're in the top 10 for that. So that's one of the things where their offense consistently continues to be good, especially with Luka and Kyrie Irving, these guys that can create to that nature. And especially in the pick and roll, with Luka Doncic, he's really attacking. We saw that in the Clippers game where they destroyed them, and it wasn't even close. So that's been the one thing. Even though their defense hasn't been good, they have guys like Grant Williams that can switch and be feisty on defensive end. Dereck Lively, who has been able to rim protect and be able to block shots. They'll have Maxi Kleber and Dwight Powell there to help and assist in that. But two guys that I want to talk about that have been good for the Dallas Mavericks so far. Tim Hardaway Jr., and he has been consistently good throughout his career. It's just been an injury thing. Injuries throughout New York, Atlanta, all of the stops that he's been in has just been injury prone. He's had injuries even in Dallas. So looking at it from that standpoint, but this season, being able to come off the bench, 18.5 points per game and shooting 40% from three, really doing his thing. And to nearly get 20 points per game off the bench, for this Dallas Mavericks squad, that's a big plus for them. That is something that they can look forward to and be satisfied with. And to get consistent play from him and hopefully he stays healthy, that's a positive thing for the Dallas Mavericks, who are consistently looking for that offensive guy last year, next to a Kyrie Irving, next to a Luka, guys that can alleviate the double teams, the pressure off those guys, because it's like you're not going to try to leave that guy open. Obviously, you're going to try to stop Luka, but it's like you're really going to have to pick your poison with this offense. And these two guys that I'm talking about right now, also Grant Williams, who's shooting nearly 50% from three, but also getting 11 points per game. And looking at him, his ability to do a couple of different things offensively as well. Really opening and trying to expand his game, not just settling for threes, trying to dribble in and create off the bounce and stuff like that. So you're seeing that from his game. But these guys are getting open looks from Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. Those guys command so much attention that these guys are going to get open shots, and they've been doing their job, and that's what they've been told to do. That's what they've been brought in. That's what Grant Williams was brought in to do. Obviously, we saw his slump in Boston last season, being out of the rotation. Now he's getting another sign of life here in Dallas with Jason Kidd, Luka Doncic, and Kyrie Irving. Those guys have been able to find him. He's been able to shoot at a very, very high clip. Hopefully that continues for the Dallas Mavericks. They're continuing to play really well. They lost tonight, but they went up against the Bucks, who are title contenders and one of the title favorites for this year. So can't win them all, but looking at it from that standpoint, the shooting ability of this team, the dynamics of Luka and Kyrie have been really well. Another guy I want to talk about is obviously Dereck Lively, who has been able to fill that Clint Capella role, Tyson Chandler role. let me temper what I'm saying here. But just to be that type of rim running big, really everyone questioned this pick in the NBA draft, and everyone was like, "Why are they picking him? Why are they doing that?" They had other options that they could have went after, but what he's been able to do so far, obviously with Luka Doncic with him, has been able to set picks and roll to the basket. And the creativity in the Mavericks offense is that they have the shooting around them where he can still roll to the basket and roam free, because now you have to overhelp on Luka Doncic. You have to sit there and watch out for three-point shooters on the perimeter. And he's been able to find the basket, be a lob threat for those guys, and finish over the top. And obviously on the other end of the floor, where they've had JaVale McGee, they had Maxi Kleber, and Dwight Powell, those guys aren't really shot blockers, even though JaVale McGee is, but he's not really going to play a bunch of minutes and not the best defender at this point in time of his career at that time. But now you have this guy who's a young athletic big that can read defenses and stuff like that and get the block shots. So that is something that's holding up on their defense, along with Tim Hardaway Jr., who's been all right, and along with Grant Williams, who has switchability playing next to Luka. Hiding those guys on defense that wasn't there before, and Dereck Lively is obviously a part of that. The Dallas Mavericks, I believe they're 9-5 now with the loss tonight, but they have been impressive, and everyone was kind of wondering what, even me, was wondering what this team would look like and how would they survive after last season, after they looked so bad offensively, defensively. And they're not a good defensive team. That's not what this team is right now, but they have guys that can get defensive stops, which is alleviating their offense, which their offense has been carrying them. But the ability to get those timely stops, even if it's little ones, is helping out the Dallas Mavericks. So kudos to them so far to start the season.